The screen went black at exactly 9:47 a.m. Not my laptop screen, the 60-inch display at the front of Apex Nova's main conference room, where $300 million worth of venture capital was about to watch our quarterly demo. The display that was supposed to show our financial middleware platform processing live transactions from 14 major banks. Instead, gray text materialized against the void. System authentication failure. Contact administrator. I was sitting in the back row. 22 years of sweat equity in that room, watching Brad Summers, our golden boy CEO, freeze mid-sentence at the podium. His mouth hung open like a fish gasping for air. 3 investors from Silicon Valley, 2 banking executives from New York, and a Treasury Department observer all stared at the dead screen. Technical difficulty, Brad stammered, his confident smile cracking. We'll have this resolved in just a moment. But I knew better. This wasn't a glitch. This was the kill switch I'd buried deep in the system architecture 2 years ago, triggered by a simple authentication protocol that only I controlled. The same system that Brad had just announced was fully autonomous and future-ready, was about to teach him the difference between managing code and owning it. In the desert, we had a saying, never let the enemy know where you buried the mines. Brad had just stepped on the biggest one I'd ever planted. My name is Dean Walker. I'm 52 years old, and until 20 minutes ago, I was the chief systems architect at Apex Nova. 28 years total, 6 in the Marines, 22 building this platform from nothing. I'd survived Desert Storm, Y2K, the dot-com crash, and 3 major recessions. But apparently I couldn't survive a 34-year-old MBA who thought legacy systems meant anything older than his last promotion. The irony was beautiful. Brad had called this emergency demonstration to prove the company could run without its outdated leadership. Instead, he was about to discover that some things, like 28 years of institutional knowledge, don't retire just because you want them to. Dean, Brad's voice cut through my thoughts. Every head in the room turned toward me. Could you take a look at this? I stood up slowly, deliberately. The walk to the front felt like crossing a minefield I'd laid myself. I could feel the investors' eyes tracking my movement, probably wondering why the CEO was asking a subordinate to fix his demo. They had no idea I wasn't a subordinate anymore. As of 20 minutes ago, I was unemployed. As of right now, I was the only person in this room who could resurrect their dead system. I reached the podium and looked at the screen, then at Brad's sweating face, then at the investors who were already checking their phones. Interesting problem, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. Looks like someone forgot to read the fine print. The walk to the elevator felt like a death march. 22 years of coffee stains on conference tables, late nights debugging critical systems, budget battles fought and won, all reduced to a cardboard box and a security escort. The younger engineers looked away. The directors suddenly found their phones fascinating. Only Ellen from operations met my eyes, and I saw something there that looked like respect mixed with fear. She knew. They all knew. Without me, Apex Nova's crown jewel, the financial middleware platform that processed transactions for half the major banks on the East Coast, was just expensive paperwork. Bill Patterson, the board chairman, caught up with me at the elevator. Dean, you know this isn't personal. No, Bill, it's business. I understand the difference. If there's anything you need, there isn't. The elevator doors closed on his uncomfortable expression. 22 years, and that's how it ended. A cardboard box and corporate platitudes. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Getting fired at 52 hits different than getting fired at 30. At 30, you bounce back. At 52, you wonder if you're done. The drive home felt like a funeral procession. 22 years of my life in that rearview mirror, reduced to a cardboard box in my back seat. Tyler's spring tuition bill was sitting on my kitchen counter. $29,000 due in 60 days. Madison had her SAT prep starting next week, another $800. The mortgage payment, $28.47 a month, would keep coming whether I had a job or not. My apartment felt smaller that night. The same place where I'd raised 2 kids every other weekend, where I'd stayed up debugging systems while they slept, where I'd built something that mattered. Now it just felt like failure. My phone lit up with texts from the team. Not support, confusion. Jamie, are we allowed to keep working on the code? Alex, HR says everything's paused until new leadership. Tommy, guess we're all disposable. Sarah, they locked you out of the system already. These were some of the best engineers I'd ever worked with, and they suddenly sounded like soldiers abandoned mid-battle. I stared at each message, my chest tight. I'd fought so hard to protect them, to carve out a space where good work mattered more than office politics. Then came the call I'd been dreading. Dean, Linda's voice had that particular tone she got when she was proven right about something. My ex-wife had warned me about staying too long at one company, about putting all my eggs in the corporate basket. I told you tech wasn't stable, Dean. You should have taken that defense contractor job in Norfolk. Government work, pension, security. It's handled, I said, though it wasn't. Not yet. Tyler's asking if he should drop out. The tuition's due in 2 months, and now... Dean, what are we going to do? We'll figure it out. Madison's defending you at school, but the other parents are talking. The Hendersons' dad works at Google, and apparently Brad was bragging at the country club about cleaning House of the Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. That word hit me harder than the firing itself. Maybe I was obsolete. Maybe 28 years of experience meant nothing in a world where kids wrote code before they could drive. Tyler called around midnight. Dad, you okay? Yeah, buddy, just thinking. About what happened today. I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. 19 years old, freshman at Virginia Tech, studying business because his mother thought it was safer than engineering. Smart kid, but he'd never seen his old man knocked down before. Dad, my friends are asking if this is it. If you're done, what do you think? Long pause. I think anyone who could build what you built isn't done. I think they just made a really big mistake. That's my boy. But doubt crept in during the empty hours. Maybe Brad was right. Maybe leadership had moved beyond people like me. The industry was full of stories. Seasoned professionals pushed aside for younger, cheaper alternatives. Maybe I was just another casualty of the youth obsession. At 3 in the morning, something made me pull out those old storage boxes from the closet. Contracts, binders, scribbled notes from every budget meeting, every negotiation, every moment I'd fought to keep our project alive. My apartment looked like a command center by dawn. Papers spread across every surface, coffee rings staining the important stuff, lamp flickering overhead like a war room briefing. I could picture Brad in his glass-walled penthouse across town, probably practicing his investor pitch in the mirror. He had the skyline. I had the fine print. The financial middleware system I'd built wasn't just code, it was architecture. 3-tier distributed processing with blockchain verification protocols. Real-time transaction monitoring across 14 time zones. Military-grade encryption that I'd learned protecting classified communications in the desert. The kind of system that takes years to understand and decades to replace. More importantly, it was mine. That's when I found it. Buried in a yellowed envelope beneath a stack of quarterly reports, a printed email from 2019. I remembered that night. Finance had announced another budget realignment, which meant our team was about to get gutted. Again. The 2019 crisis had been brutal. The company was hemorrhaging money, investors were pulling out, and the board was looking for scapegoats. I'd watched good engineers get laid off for cost optimization, while executives kept their bonuses. That's when I realized that loyalty to the company meant nothing if the company had no loyalty to its people. I'd stayed up until dawn that night drafting an alternate plan. Smart contracts, separate legal entity, military-grade encryption protocols. The kind of defensive strategy you learn when you've spent 6 years protecting classified systems in hostile territory. There it was, halfway down the email, buried in lawyer speak so boring it looked harmless. In the event of termination of project leadership or funding discontinuation, all core architecture rights revert to Walker Defense Systems until full legal reintegration is completed. Walker Defense Systems. My company, my entity, my insurance policy. The system Brad thought he'd inherited was actually leased. The patents, the core algorithms, the encryption keys, all registered under my shell company during the 2019 crisis when I thought they might shut us down entirely. Legal, documented, and completely invisible to anyone who didn't read every line of every contract. Brad thought stripping me of my title gave him control. He thought public humiliation would make me disappear quietly. What he didn't know was that their little corporate power play had just triggered the very clause that put their entire operation back in my hands. I set the paper down, hands steady. 28 years of experience doesn't retire, it evolves. My phone buzzed. A text from Jamie, the youngest engineer on our team. They don't know who holds the original patent, do they? Smart kid. He'd glimpsed the truth while the executives were busy playing politics. I typed back, no, they don't. The response came immediately. What do you need me to do? I smiled. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. The first crack appeared exactly where I expected it, during Brad's big investor demo. I wasn't there in person, but I didn't need to be. Word travels fast in tech, especially when something goes sideways in front of money. The investors had flown in from 3 cities. Venture capitalists from Silicon Valley, banking executives from New York and government contractors from DC. They'd packed into Apex Nova's sleek auditorium for what Brad promised would be a flawless demonstration of our cutting-edge financial middleware platform. Instead, what they got was silence. The demo dashboard lit up, flickered, then froze on a single line of gray text. License authorization expired. I was at home, watching the updates roll in through our team's private Slack channel, the one HR hadn't thought to remove me from yet. Alex, they're sweating bullets up there. Jamie, ops can't access staging. Tommy, Sarah, Brad's face is purple. Jamie, someone just asked if we actually own the platform. At first, nobody understood what it meant. The room buzzed with polite confusion, the kind that usually smooths over small technical glitches. Brad forced a laugh and waved to the engineering team at the back. Just a hiccup, he called out. 2 minutes turned into 10. 10 turned into 20. Every click, every refresh, same result. License authorization expired. Alex, Ellen just asked the big question. That's when Ellen, the director of operations, raised her voice over the nervous whispers. Wait, are we saying we've actually lost control of the platform? The words cut through the room like a blade. Investors turned their heads in unison. Brad's smile cracked. Of course not, he stammered, tugging at his cufflinks. We have redundancies. Everything's fine. But his voice betrayed him. It wavered just enough to send doubt rippling through the crowd. Tommy, investors are checking their phones. Sarah, 3 just walked out. Jamie, this is absolutely epic. Alex, VCs are whispering about due diligence failures. I sat in my second-hand chair at my cluttered table, feeling a quiet current of satisfaction pulse through my chest. This was the power of preparation, the reward for reading every line when nobody else bothered. The failure wasn't random. The license verification system I'd built operated on a rolling 30-day authentication cycle. When I'd designed it, I'd embedded multiple checkpoints, not just for security, but for control. Every major function required verification against the master authentication server, which happened to be registered under Walker Defense Systems. Brad had just learned the difference between managing a system and owning it. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Human Resources. Dean, hi, it's Ashley from HR. How are you holding up? We've been so concerned. Concerned. Where was their concern when Brad cut me down in front of the board? I'm fine, I said flatly. Good. Listen, the last few days have been challenging, but leadership's been talking and we feel it would be mutually beneficial if you came back. We'd love to restore continuity. Mutually beneficial. Restore continuity. Corporate speak for we're drowning. You want me back? Yes, absolutely. The investors are unsettled and the team clearly respects you. This is about stability. We'd be happy to discuss adjustments to your compensation. Significant adjustments. There it was. Money. The universal bandage they thought could patch any wound. I let the silence stretch until she shifted uncomfortably. You don't have enough money, I said. I'm sorry? You don't have enough money to buy back 28 years. Not the late nights, not the system I built from scratch, not the patents you tried to bury, and certainly not my silence. I hung up before she could respond. Within an hour, my phone was ringing again. This time, it was Bill Patterson, the board chairman. Dean, this is Bill. We need to talk. No, we don't. The system is locked out. Our entire platform is down. Clients are calling. Sounds like a Brad problem. Dean, be reasonable. Name your price. I almost laughed. There isn't one. What do you want? I want you to remember this conversation in a week when you're wondering how a 52-year-old dinosaur outsmarted your golden boy. Click. That evening, I made 3 phone calls. Not to lawyers or headhunters. To brothers, Tank, it's Dean. Rick Tank Rodriguez had been my squad leader in the desert. 27 years later, he was running a cybersecurity consulting firm in Virginia Beach. Still had that same gravelly voice that could cut through artillery fire. Tank had saved my life twice in Iraq. Once from enemy fire, once from friendly fire that wasn't so friendly. The kind of debt you never forget. Well, I'll be damned. Dean Walker. Heard you got the axe from some pretty boy CEO. News travels fast. Bad news travels faster. Especially when it's about family. Tank had always considered our old squad family. What do you need? Remember what you used to say about leaving Marines behind? Tank's laugh was like gravel in a cement mixer. No Marine left behind. What's the play? Corporate warfare. Could use some reconnaissance. Say no more. When do we start? The second call went to Mike Wire Torres in Phoenix. Wire had always been our electronics guy. Could tap a phone line or disable an alarm system faster than most people could tie their shoes. He'd been the one who kept our communications secure when we were running classified operations. These days, he ran a small security firm, mostly corporate anti-espionage work. Wire had gotten his nickname from his ability to wire anything: explosives, communications, security systems. In civilian life, those skills translated into one of the best corporate intelligence operations in the Southwest. Dean, heard about Apex Nova? That sucks, brother. Could use some help with reconnaissance. Against corporate targets? My specialty, what are we looking for? Anything that doesn't add up. Financial irregularities, undisclosed meetings, foreign connections. Now you're talking my language. The third call was to Joe Priest Williams in D.C. Priest got his nickname because he'd wanted to be a chaplain before he discovered he was better at reading contracts than scripture. The man could find loopholes in the Ten Commandments. Now he handled military contracts for defense firms, specializing in the kind of legal warfare that kept corporate executives awake at night. Dean, good to hear from you. Sorry about the job situation. Not sorry yet. Need some legal advice. Pro bono for a Marine. Always. What's the situation? Patent dispute. Corporate malfeasance. Possible national security implications. My favorite kind. When do we meet? We met at Tank's office the next morning. Same old crew, 25 years older but still sharp. Tank had put on weight, Wire's hair had gone silver, and Priest wore glasses now. But when they looked at the contracts I'd spread across the conference table, their eyes lit up like we were planning another mission. This is beautiful, Priest said, running his finger down the patent filing. You buried this deeper than a Taliban IED. They never saw it coming. Tank was studying the organizational charts. So Apex Nova thinks they own the system, but you actually hold the patents through the shell company? Walker Defense Systems, registered in Delaware, incorporated in Virginia. Completely legal, completely hidden. Wire was examining the system architecture diagrams. You built a kill switch into the core platform, military-grade encryption protocols, triple-layer authentication with rotating keys, the kind we used for classified communications. Without the master codes, their system is just expensive paperwork. Elegant, Priest murmured. How long can you keep them locked out? Indefinitely. The authentication server is mine. The encryption keys are mine. The core patents are mine. They can't operate without my permission. Tank leaned back in his chair. So what's the endgame? Sell it back to them for retirement money? Better than that. I pulled out a folder I'd been saving for last. Wire, remember that surveillance sweep you did on Meridian Corp last year? Yeah, corporate espionage case. Chinese hackers trying to steal manufacturing specs. Why? I need you to do the same thing on Brad Summers. Quietly, looking for what? Anything that doesn't add up. His timeline, his backers, his real agenda. Something about this whole situation feels orchestrated. Wire nodded slowly. You think the firing was part of a larger plan? I think Brad Summers is either the dumbest CEO in tech history, or he's working for someone else. Either way, we need to know which. Tank was already thinking tactically. What's our timeline? They'll try to hire outside contractors to crack the system. That'll buy us maybe a week before they realize it's impossible. After that, they'll either cave or try something desperate. And if they try something desperate, I smiled. That's when we spring the trap. 3 days later, Wire called with results that changed everything. Dean, you're going to love this. Your boy Brad's been having secret meetings with overseas buyers, some investment consortium called Dragon Capital Partners. They're not interested in the platform, they want the client data. Financial records for every major bank that uses your system. My blood went cold. For what purpose? Money laundering, insider trading, you name it. This isn't corporate acquisition, it's financial crime. And here's the kicker. Brad's been negotiating the deal since before he fired you. This was planned. How long before he fired me? 6 months, maybe longer. The meeting logs go back to last fall. That changed everything. This wasn't just about ageism or corporate politics anymore. This was about financial fraud. The system I'd built processed transactions for institutions that handled sensitive financial data. If criminals got access to that information, there's more, Wire continued. Dragon Capital isn't just any investment firm. They're a front for money laundering operations. Brad's been taking payments through a Cayman Islands account. Classic financial crime setup. Evidence? Rock solid. Photos, meeting transcripts, financial transfers. We've got him dead to rights on securities fraud and conspiracy. Get me everything. We're going federal. The siege began systematically. We weren't cowboys, we were Marines. Every action had a purpose. Every pressure point was calculated. Tank's cybersecurity audit discovered vulnerabilities in Apex Nova's systems that required immediate attention, expensive attention. He submitted a formal report that highlighted critical security gaps that could expose client data to foreign actors, the kind of report that made board members wake up in cold sweats. Wire's intelligence gathering revealed Brad's pattern of closed-door meetings with people who weren't on any official visitor logs. Meetings that happened in restaurants far from the office, in hotel lobbies, and parking garages. The kind of meetings that suggested someone had something to hide. Priest's legal review found contract violations that could trigger regulatory investigations. The kind of violations that attracted attention from federal agencies that took national security very seriously. And my system kept failing at the worst possible moments. Every morning brought new technical difficulties. Client demos crashed. Backup servers went offline. The platform that had run flawlessly for 6 years suddenly couldn't stay operational for 6 hours. But these weren't random failures. Each outage was strategically timed to maximize damage. The Tuesday morning crash hit during First National's quarterly investor call. Wednesday's failure occurred during the Federal Reserve's stress test review. Thursday's outage happened while the Treasury Department was conducting their security audit. Brad was spiraling. His confident swagger turned to panicked damage control. He hired outside contractors to fix the problems. Raza Solutions from California, a team of ex-Google engineers who charged $5,000 a day. They spent a week trying to crack my encryption protocols and achieved exactly nothing. Then he brought in Black Hat Security, a group of former NSA hackers who specialized in penetration testing. They lasted 3 days before admitting defeat. My system wasn't just locked, it was impenetrable. The financial pressure was mounting. Each day of downtime cost Apex Nova hundreds of thousands in revenue. Clients were threatening to cancel contracts. Stock price was falling. The board was asking uncomfortable questions. "Dad?" Tyler called me on Thursday evening. He'd been quiet since the firing, probably embarrassed that his classmates' parents were gossiping about the old man getting canned. "Yeah, I've been thinking about what you do. Building systems that banks use. That's actually pretty cool. Your mom thinks you should focus on your business degree. Mom doesn't understand code. I want to learn what you do. The real stuff, not the theory they teach in school." For the first time in 2 weeks, I smiled. It's harder than it looks. Good, easy stuff is boring. That weekend, Tyler drove down from Virginia Tech. He spent Saturday morning going through my old architecture diagrams, asking questions that reminded me why I loved this work in the first place. "Dad, why did you build the kill switch into the core system?" "Because systems are like people, son. If you don't know who you can trust, you build in protection." "Did you know Brad would try to sell the company?" "I knew someone would try something. I just didn't know when." Madison had her own take on the situation. When we picked her up for lunch, she told us about her week at school. Sarah Henderson's dad was bragging about how his company was going to hire all the displaced talent from Apex Nova. So I asked him if he knew the difference between managing code and writing it. He didn't. "Madison, what?" "It's a fair question. You wrote the system they're all fighting over. They can't even keep it running without you." Smart kid, both of them were. By Friday morning, the pressure had reached a breaking point. The board called an emergency session. Brad had promised the investors that all technical issues would be resolved, that the platform would be fully operational, that the company was stronger than ever. He was half right. The company would be stronger, just not his company. I walked into that same boardroom where they'd humiliated me 2 weeks earlier. Same long table, same faces, but the power dynamic had shifted completely. Brad stood near the window, looking like a man who'd aged 5 years in 14 days. "Dean," he began, voice cracking, "there's no need for this. The situation is under control." "Sit down, Brad," said Bill Patterson, the chairman. "You've done enough." Brad flinched but remained standing. "The technical issues are temporary. We have the best consultants working on—" "The consultants you hired can't access the system either," Ellen interrupted. "Because Dean owns it. Because you fired the one person who could keep it running." I placed my folder on the table, deliberately calm. "I'm not here to ask for my job back. Let's make that clear." Murmurs swept the room. They expected negotiation, maybe demands for compensation. "I will not return to Apex Nova. I will not restore your access. What I will do is transfer the patents." "To who?" Patterson asked. "Walker Defense Systems retains all core architecture patents. Apex Nova can license basic functionality for existing clients only. No new development, no expansion, no sale to third parties." "That's impossible," Brad sputtered. "The Chinese deal." "There is no Chinese deal," I cut him off. "Not anymore." "Wire?" Wire stood up from the back of the room, where he'd been quietly recording everything. "FBI's very interested in Golden Dragon investments, Brad. Turns out selling financial client data to foreign intelligence services is what we call treason." Brad's face went white. "You don't understand. The deal would have saved the company. The deal would have compromised national security," Tank said, stepping forward. "We've got photos, financial records, communication intercepts. You've been taking money from Chinese intelligence for 6 months. Priest opened his briefcase and slid a document across the table. Federal warrant. Brad Summers, you're under investigation for violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and the Economic Espionage Act. The room erupted. Board members shouted over each other. Patterson called for order. Brad slumped into his chair, looking like a man watching his world collapse in real time. The system stays locked until the FBI completes their investigation, I announced. After that, Walker Defense Systems will license limited functionality to Apex Nova for existing clients only. No new development, no expansion, no foreign sales. Patterson looked like he wanted to argue, but knew he had no leverage. What about our investors? Our clients? Your clients can migrate to Walker Defense Systems if they want continued service. Your investors should have done better due diligence on your CEO. I stood up and gathered my papers. Oh, and Brad, next time you want to call someone a dinosaur, make sure they're actually extinct. 6 months later, Walker Defense Systems occupied a modest office building in Virginia Beach. No glass towers, no pretentious art installations, just good engineers doing good work. Tank handled security contracts. Wire managed our surveillance and protection services. Priest negotiated deals with defense contractors who understood the value of experience. We hired veterans first. Experienced engineers who'd been discarded by companies that confused youth with innovation. The FBI investigation had been thorough. Brad was facing federal charges that would put him away for a decade. Dragon Capital Partners turned out to be a front for money laundering operations, and their attempt to acquire Apex Nova's client data had been part of a broader financial crime scheme targeting American banking institutions. Tyler spent his winter break working with our development team, learning system architecture from the ground up. He'd switched his major from business to computer science despite his mother's objections. Dad, this is what I want to do. Build things that matter. It's not easy work. The best work never is. Madison had her own perspective on the whole situation. During parent-teacher conferences, when other parents tried to bring up the situation at Apex Nova, she'd just smile and say, "My dad builds things that protect the country." What does your dad do? The financial middleware system was running better than ever. We'd improved the security protocols, added new features, and expanded our client base to include government agencies that needed military-grade financial processing. The kind of clients who understood that experience wasn't a liability, it was an asset. Brad Summers made the news exactly once more. A small item in the business section about federal convictions and foreign investment violations. By then, nobody cared. The tech world moves fast, and yesterday's genius is tomorrow's cautionary tale. But Walker Defense Systems kept growing. We recruited talent from across the industry. Engineers who'd been pushed aside for being too expensive or too experienced. Turns out, when you're building systems that protect national security, you want people who understand the stakes. Tank put it best during our first company meeting. We're not here to be the youngest or the cheapest. We're here to be the best. The Marines have a saying, once a Marine, always a Marine. But there's another part to it that most people don't know, and Marines take care of Marines. That's what Walker Defense Systems became, a place where experience was valued, where loyalty mattered, where the mission came first. We built systems that protected the financial infrastructure of the United States. We hired veterans who understood service. We proved that wisdom beats youth every single time. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's proving them wrong. It's building something better with the people they threw away. It's showing the world that experience doesn't retire, it evolves. 28 years of knowledge doesn't become obsolete overnight. It becomes dangerous when it's underestimated. If this story hit you somewhere, if you've ever been underestimated or pushed aside because of your age, remember this: your worth isn't decided in someone else's boardroom. It's written in what you choose to build next. Sometimes all it takes is knowing where to find the fine print. And sometimes the best weapon against ageism is proving that experience trumps arrogance every single time. The young lions think they own the jungle, but the old wolves know where all the traps are buried.
Some days feel off, like I'm standing but still falling. A little pain, a little tired, and no one to tell it all to. There are days that feel unsteady, like I'm drifting out of place. Every step just feels so heavy, with a smile I have to fake. A little hurt I keep inside me, a little weight I always hide, and 1,000 quiet worries I've been holding deep inside. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. I keep walking through the silence like it's all I've ever known. Every crowded room reminds me how it feels to be alone. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. Maybe one day I'll be stronger, maybe I'll learn how to speak, but for now I keep it buried in the parts of me too weak. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would, but pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly, don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger, now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection, now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone